The call comes at 3:12 a.m. Gamo Tak doesn't flinch when phones ring in the dead of night. In his world, chaos keeps office hours that belong to ghosts and predators. But when the burner line, the one reserved for threats and ransoms, lights up on the glass table of his Gangnam penthouse, and he sees that name, the one he buried 3 years ago, his cigarette burns forgotten between his fingers. The message is 4 words. They took him. He reads it once, twice. The rain streaks down the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him like the city is bleeding. Him, not us, not help me. Just him, his son, the child he never knew existed. The woman who disappeared after 1 perfect month together, after she looked into his eyes during a meeting and understood what the tailored suits and polite smiles really concealed. Not just wealth, not just influence, violence. The kind whispered about in shuttered restaurants and hospital waiting rooms. Across Seoul, in a narrow alleyway in the foreign district where street lamps flicker like dying heartbeats, Linda Thompson sits with her back against cold brick. Her hands shake as she watches the screen. She can unsend it, delete the thread, go to the police like a normal person who doesn't know the man who fathers children and topples empires with the same ruthless efficiency. But Kai's jacket is missing. The men who grabbed him spoke Korean she didn't understand, but their intent was universal, and the one phrase she did catch, Chonil's blood, told her everything she needed to know. This wasn't random. This was about Tak. Her phone vibrates. 1 word. Where? She types the cross streets with trembling fingers, then adds, "I'm sorry, I had no choice." The response is immediate. "Stay there." 18 minutes later, 3 black sedans roll into the alley where luxury vehicles don't belong. The lead car's door opens, and Gamo Tak steps into the rain without an umbrella, his white shirt already soaking through, his expression carved from stone. He sees her, and for the first time in 3 years, Linda Thompson watches the most dangerous man she's ever known look afraid. If you want to know what happens when Seoul's most ruthless crime lord goes to war for the son he never knew he had, subscribe and follow for the rest of the story. Tak doesn't run. Men like him don't run, it shows weakness, and weakness in his world is a death sentence. But his stride eats the distance between the car and the woman on the pavement like something starving. Linda looks up, and the relief that floods her face is immediately swallowed by something darker. Shame, maybe. Or terror at what she's just unleashed. Tak, her voice cracks, and she's on her feet, stumbling forward. He catches her by the shoulders before she collapses, and up close he can see it all. The tear tracks cutting through dirt on her face, the wild desperation in her eyes, the way her whole body trembles like she's been thrown into ice water. Where? It's not a question, it's a command, low and lethal. "I don't know," she chokes out, and her fingers dig into his forearms with enough force to leave marks. "I don't know. We were at the night market. He wanted tteokbokki. Tuck. He's obsessed with it, and I turned away for 1 second to pay, and when I looked back, her breathing goes ragged, hyperventilating, and Tak's hands tighten on her shoulders. Breathe. There was a van, black, no plates, and these men, they grabbed him, and he was screaming for me. Linda, breathe." She sucks in air like she's drowning, and when she looks up at him, the next words come out strangled and desperate. "He has your eyes, Tak." The world goes very still. "What?" "He's yours." Her voice breaks completely. "Kai, he's yours. I found out 2 weeks after she can't finish. I didn't tell you because I didn't want him growing up in your world. I didn't want him to become what you are." Tak's mind is a white-hot blank. A son. He has a son. 2 years old, if he's doing the math right, and somewhere in this city with men who know exactly whose blood runs through his veins. Behind him, his Lieutenant Min Jae approaches, phone already out. "Boss, we're pulling traffic cameras from..." "Shut it down." Tak's voice comes out flat and cold, the tone he uses right before someone stops breathing. "Lock down every exit out of Seoul. I want eyes on every port, every train station, every airstrip. I want the name of every crew stupid enough to operate in my city tonight." Min Jae nods and vanishes. Tak turns back to Linda, and for just a moment, something human flickers behind his eyes. Something that looks almost like anguish. "How old?" 2 years and 4 months. "What's his name?" "Kai." She's crying now, open and broken. "His name is Kai, and they have him, and this is my fault." "No." Tak's jaw sets like concrete. "This is mine." He pulls out his phone and makes a call. When he speaks, his voice carries the weight of an empire. "Gather the family. We're going to war." The headquarters of the Cheon-il Syndicate sits above a legitimate import-export business in Itaewon. All polished steel and dark wood that smells like expensive whiskey and old money. Linda has never been here. In their brief time together, Tak kept this part of his life locked away like a dirty secret, and now she understands why. The elevator doors open to a room full of men who look like they were carved from the same violent stone as Tak. They stop talking the moment he enters, Linda trailing behind him like a ghost in torn jeans and a stained jacket. She doesn't belong here. Every instinct screams at her to run. But Kai's face flashes in her mind, his gap-toothed smile, the way he laughs when she tickles his feet and she forces herself to keep walking. Tak doesn't introduce her. He doesn't have to. The way his hand hovers at the small of her back, protective and possessive, tells them everything they need to know. Sit, he tells her, gesturing to a leather chair near the wall. She obeys, feeling like an exhibit in a museum of predators. Min-jae is already at the head of the table, tablet glowing with security footage. We've identified the vehicle. Black Hyundai Porter, reported stolen 3 days ago from Busan. It was spotted heading east on the Olympic Expressway before the cameras lost it near. Who operates in that sector? Tak cuts him off, leaning both palms on the table. The Vipers have territory there, but they've been quiet since the treaty. The treaty is dead. Tak's voice drops to something sub-zero. Anyone who knows anything about this, I want them found. I want them in this room within the hour, or I want them in the ground. The room goes silent. One of the younger men, barely older than 20, with nervous energy crackling off him, speaks up. Boss, if we move that aggressively, the other families will. Tak's gaze swings to him, and the kid shrinks back like he's been slapped. Do I look like I give a fuck about the other families right now? No one answers. Tak straightens, and when he speaks again, his voice carries through the room like a blade. Effective immediately, I'm issuing a red order. Every crew, every soldier, every informant on our payroll, I want the city turned inside out. I want to know who took my son, where they're holding him, and who gave the order. I want names, locations, and I want them now. Linda's breath catches. My son. He said it like a claim. Like a war declaration. Spread the word, Tak continues, pulling his phone from his pocket. Anyone who brings me actionable intelligence gets paid. Anyone who's hiding information gets buried. And tell the Vipers, he pauses, and something dangerous slides across his face. Tell them if my boy has a single scratch on him, I'm going to burn their entire organization to ash and scatter it in the Han River. The dealer's name is Park something. Linda doesn't catch the rest before Tak's men throw him into the chair in the basement room she didn't know existed until 10 minutes ago. The space is concrete and cold, with a drain in the center of the floor that she deliberately doesn't think about. She should leave. Tak told her to wait upstairs, but she can't. Every second that ticks by is another second Kai is out there, scared and alone, and if this man knows something, anything, she needs to hear it. Park is skinny, maybe 30, with track marks on his arms, and the jittery energy of someone who's been on the wrong end of life for too long. When he sees Tak, his face goes the color of old paper. I don't know nothing, I swear to God. You were working the corner on Dongho Bridge tonight. Tak's voice is conversational, almost pleasant, which somehow makes it worse. He pulls a chair over and sits, close enough that their knees almost touch. Black van, Hyundai Porter. You sold to the driver 2 hours before my son was taken. I sell to lots of people, man. I don't remember. The first hit comes so fast, Linda doesn't see it. One moment Tak is sitting calmly. The next Park's head snaps back with a crack that echoes off concrete. Blood streams from his nose. Linda's hand flies to her mouth. Let me be clear, Tak says, and his voice hasn't changed at all, still that same pleasant tone. I'm not asking you to remember everyone. I'm asking you to remember this one sale, this one van, because the men in that van took something that belongs to me, and right now, you're the only thread I have to pull. Park spits blood onto the floor. I want a lawyer. The second hit is worse. Tak grabs him by the throat and lifts, and Park's feet scrabble uselessly against the concrete. Linda watches, frozen, as the man she once loved, the man who brought her flowers and laughed at her terrible Korean pronunciation, holds another human being like he weighs nothing. You're not under arrest, Tak says quietly. You're in my house, and in my house you talk or you stop breathing. Choose. He drops Park back into the chair. The dealer gasps, clutching his throat, and when he looks up there's pure animal terror in his eyes. Okay. Fuck yeah, I remember. 2 guys, spoke with Busan accents. The driver had a tattoo on his neck, a snake eating its tail. They asked about you, about the Cheonil family. I didn't tell them shit. I swear. Where did they go? I don't know, man, they just... Tak stands, and Park flinches so hard the chair legs scrape. Wait. The passenger. He made a call. Said something about the shipyard. That's all I heard. I swear on my mother's grave. Tak looks at Min-jae, who's already on his phone. Then he looks at Linda, and she sees it in his eyes. This is who I am. She nods once. I know. Do it anyway. The call comes through on a burner number 40 minutes after Park gives up the shipyard lead. Tak's phone lights up with an unknown contact, and the entire war room goes silent as he answers on speaker. Gamo Tak. The voice on the other end is distorted, run through some kind of filter, but the Busan accent bleeds through. I hear you've been tearing up the city looking for something. Tak's expression doesn't change, but Linda sees his hand curl into a fist on the table. If you've harmed him, check your messages. The line goes dead. 3 seconds later, a video file comes through. Tak opens it, and Linda is across the room before her mind catches up to her body. On the screen, Kai sits on a concrete floor in a room with no windows, his little face blotchy from crying. He's wearing the same dinosaur shirt from this morning. God, was it only this morning? And there's a piece of tape across his mouth. Linda's knees buckle. Min-jae catches her before she hits the floor. He's alive, Tak says, and his voice is so carefully controlled it sounds like it might shatter. He's breathing, no visible injuries. The phone rings again. Tak answers. Now that we have your attention, the distorted voice continues. Let's talk business. The Incheon docks. You're going to sign over operational control to the Viper clan by noon tomorrow. All shipping routes, all protection contracts, all territory. You'll issue a public statement that you're stepping back, and you won't retaliate. Min-jae's face goes dark. Boss, that's 30% of our revenue. Tak silences him with a look. And if I refuse? Tak asks. Then your son learns what the Han River looks like at night. Linda makes a sound like she's been gutted. Tak's jaw works, a muscle ticking beneath the skin. How do I know you'll release him after I comply? You don't. But you're going to do it anyway because you're not actually stupid enough to gamble with his life. You have until noon. We'll be in touch with transfer instructions. The line goes dead again. For a moment, no one speaks. Then Min-jae leans forward, his voice urgent. Boss, if you give them the docks, the other families will see it as weakness. They'll circle like sharks. We'll lose everything we've built. Do it. Everyone stares at him. Prepare the transfer documents, Tak says, standing. His voice is flat, final. Contact our lawyers. I want everything ready to sign by dawn. Tak. Min-jae starts. Do it. Tak turns to face his lieutenant, and Linda sees something in his expression that makes her heart clench. Not anger, something colder, more calculated. The docks don't matter. Territory doesn't matter. Find me that shipyard. He looks at the frozen frame of Kai on his phone screen. I'm getting my son back, and then I'm going to kill every single one of them. The exchange point is 2 hours outside Seoul, in an industrial park near Pyeongtaek that's been abandoned since the financial crisis. Tak insists on driving himself, waving off Min-jae's protests about security. Linda sits in the passenger seat of the Genesis, the transfer documents in a briefcase at her feet, watching the city lights fade into darkness. They don't speak for the first 30 minutes. The silence is suffocating. Finally, Linda breaks. You should have told me. Tak's hands tighten on the wheel. Told you what? What you really were. She stops, swallows hard. Before I fell in love with you, would it have changed anything? Yes. The word comes out fierce. I would have run the first night instead of the 30th. I would have saved us both the trouble. Is that what Kai is to you? Tak's voice goes sharp. Trouble? Don't. Linda's eyes flash. Don't you dare twist this. I left because I didn't want my child growing up in a world where people get thrown into basements and beaten for information, where his father's enemies become his enemies before he can even walk. And yet, here we are. The truth of it hangs between them like smoke. Linda turns to stare out the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after I left, she says quietly. I was in a clinic in Busan, and the doctor asked if I wanted to contact the father. And I couldn't. Because I knew what you'd do. What would I have done? You'd have pulled us into your world. Given us protection, sure, but also made us targets. Made Kai a piece on your chessboard. She looks at him. Tell me I'm wrong. Tak says nothing, because they both know she's not. I wanted him to have a normal life, Linda continues. Playgrounds and birthday parties and scraped knees that don't come from turf wars. I wanted him to not know what his father does for a living until he's old enough to understand why some men choose darkness. And how did that work out? The words are cruel, but Tak's voice cracks on the last syllable. He's in a van with men who would kill him just to make a point. Your normal life didn't protect him, Linda. It just made him vulnerable. She flinches like he struck her. I know that. Don't you think I know that? Then why didn't you tell me? And now the anger bleeds through, raw and desperate. 2 years. I missed 2 years of his life, his first steps, his first words. I didn't even know I had a son until tonight, and now I might lose him before I ever get to. His voice breaks completely. He pulls off onto the shoulder, parks, and for the first time since she's known him, Ga-mo-tak puts his face in his hands. Linda reaches across the console and takes his hand. We're going to get him back, she whispers. And then we figure out the rest. The industrial park is a graveyard of rusted machinery and broken windows. Tak pulls into the designated lot at exactly noon, headlights cutting through the fog that's rolled in from the coast. There are 3 vehicles waiting, 2 black vans and a Mercedes sedan that screams leadership. Stay in the car, Tak tells Linda. Like hell, stay in the car. His tone leaves no room for argument. If this goes wrong, you drive. Don't stop, don't look back. Min-jae's team is 5 minutes out. He takes the briefcase and steps out into the cold. 6 men emerge from the vehicles, all wearing masks, all armed. The one from the Mercedes, taller than the rest, with a snake tattoo crawling up his neck, steps forward. The documents? Tak holds up the briefcase. My son first. Snake tattoo laughs, and it's a sound like breaking glass. That's not how this works, Ga-mo-tak. You've gotten soft in your old age. Did you really think we'd just hand him back? The men raise their weapons. Tak doesn't move. I think you're making a mistake. The only mistake was yours, thinking you could. The first shot comes from the roof line of the building behind them. Snake Tattoo's head snaps back in a spray of red, and suddenly the industrial park erupts into chaos. Tak's hidden team, positioned hours ago when Min-jae traced the shipyard lead, opens fire from 3 different angles. Tak dives behind the Genesis as bullets shred the air where he was standing. He pulls a gun from his ankle holster and returns fire, dropping one of the Vipers before the man can reach cover. Kai! Linda is screaming from inside the car, and Tak sees it the same moment she does. One of the vans is already moving, tires screeching as it races toward the exit. No! Tak sprints for the Genesis, yanks the door open, and throws himself into the driver's seat. Linda's already moved to passenger. He slams the car into gear and floors it. The van has a head start, but the Genesis has speed. Tak weaves between rusted equipment, the gap closing. Beside him, Linda grips the dashboard, her face white. The van hits the main road and takes a hard right. Tak follows, engine screaming. He pulls alongside, trying to force them off the road, but the driver swerves into him. Metal screams against metal. Tak the bridge. He sees it too late. The van crosses the bridge, and then there's an explosion, a planted charge that tears through the concrete and steel. The entire structure starts to collapse. Tak slams the brakes. The Genesis stops inches from the edge, and they watch helplessly as the van disappears into the distance on the other side. The bridge falls into the ravine below with a sound like the end of the world. Linda's scream is raw and animal. Tak's phone rings. He answers. You shouldn't have tried that, Ga-mo-tak. Now the price just went up. Linda is out of the car before Tak can stop her, stumbling toward the collapsed bridge like she might somehow will it back into existence. Her knees hit the gravel and she just shatters. The sound that comes out of her is something primal, the kind of grief that has no words. He was right there, she chokes out between sobs. He was right there, and we lost him, Tak. We lost him. Tak stands frozen by the car, watching her fall apart, and for a moment he doesn't know what to do. Violence, he understands. Strategy, negotiations, the cold calculus of power, these are his languages. But this, raw human suffering, the woman he once loved breaking open on the side of a road. He moves before he realizes he's decided to, drops to his knees beside her and pulls her against his chest, and she fights him for half a second before collapsing into him completely. This is my fault, she's saying, over and over. I should have told you from the beginning. I should have. If I just told you, he'd have been protected. He'd have been safe. And now he's out there and he's scared, and he probably thinks I abandoned him. Stop. Tak's voice is rough. His hand comes up to cradle the back of her head, holding her like she's something breakable. This is not your fault. I tried to keep him away from your world, and I just made him a target anyway. What kind of mother does that make me? The kind who loves him enough to try. Tak pulls back just enough to look at her, and Linda sees something in his face she's never seen before. Not the cold Mafia boss, not the calculated predator, just a man, scared and human and hurting. You gave him 2 years of normal, 2 years of bedtime stories and playgrounds and not looking over his shoulder. That's more than I ever had. Linda's breath hitches. Tak, I am not a good man, Linda. His thumb brushes away her tears, gentle in a way that seems impossible from hands that broke Park's nose 3 hours ago. I have done things that would make you sick if you knew the details. I have hurt people, killed people, built an empire on blood and fear because that's the only language I was ever taught. He leans his forehead against hers. But I will be a good father tonight. I will find our son, I will bring him home, and I will make sure that everyone who touched him understands what it costs to take something from Gamotak. Linda closes her eyes, and when she opens them, there's something fierce there alongside the fear. What do we do now? Tak's phone buzzes. He glances at it, and his expression goes sharp. Min-jae traced the van's route. They're heading to Incheon Port. He stands, pulling Linda up with him. Now, we go to war. The abandoned shipyard at Incheon Port is a maze of shipping containers and rusted cranes that look like skeletal fingers against the night sky. Min-jae's team has the perimeter locked down, 20 men positioned in a loose circle with orders to let no one escape. But Tak goes in alone. Boss, at least take a team, Min-jae starts. But Tak is already checking his gun, his face set like carved granite. If they hear an army coming, they'll kill him. He looks at Linda, who's standing by the car with her arms wrapped around herself. I need them focused on me. Tak. Her voice breaks on his name. He crosses to her, cups her face in both hands. I'm bringing him home. I promise you. Then he's gone, disappearing into the shadows between containers like he was born to them. The first guard doesn't even see him coming. Tak moves like smoke, like violence given human form, and the man drops with a silenced shot before he can raise the alarm. The second guard turns at the sound of the body hitting concrete, but Tak is already there, knife finding the gap between ribs with surgical precision. He moves deeper into the shipyard, following the sound of voices. 3 men playing cards in the shell of an old foreman's office. Tak throws a shipping hook through the window. They turn toward the sound, and he comes through the door with his gun raised. 2 shots, 2 bodies. The third man lunges with a knife, and Tak catches his wrist, twists, and drives the man's own blade up under his jaw. Where's the boy? Tak's voice is dead calm, as the man gurgles and slides to the floor. More voices, deeper in. Tak reloads and keeps moving. The next room is a warehouse floor stacked with containers. 5 men, all armed, all turning as Tak kicks in the door. He doesn't think thinking is for planning. For strategy, he just moves. Rolls behind a container as bullets tear through the air where he was standing. Comes up shooting. 1 down, 2 down. Someone flanks him from the left and Tak spins. Too slow. Takes a knife across his ribs that burns like fire. He ignores it. Brings his elbow down on the man's neck. Feels something crack. 3 down. The 4th man runs. Tak shoots him in the leg and he goes down screaming. The 5th drops his weapon. Hands up. Wait, please. The boy. Where is he? The man's eyes dart toward a container at the far end of the warehouse. The only one with a padlock. Tak shoots him in the shoulder, not fatal, but it'll hurt, and moves toward the container. His hands shake as he reaches for the lock. Behind the metal door, he hears something that makes his heart stop. Crying. Small, scared, heartbreakingly familiar. Kai. He breathes, and tears the lock off with his bare hands. The container door swings open and Tak's heart stops. Kai is there, huddled in the corner on a filthy blanket, his face streaked with tears and dirt. But he's not alone. A man stands behind him, older, 50s maybe, with the snake tattoo that marks him as Viper leadership, and there's a gun pressed against the back of Kai's small head. Ga Mo Tak. The man's voice is almost pleasant. I was wondering when you'd arrive. Quite the mess you made getting here. Tak freezes in the doorway, every muscle in his body screaming to move, to attack, to end this man. But the gun doesn't waver from Kai's head, and his son is looking at him with wide, terrified eyes that are God. Linda was right, exactly like his own. Let him go. Tak's voice is barely human. And lose my only leverage? I don't think so. The Viper boss smiles. You killed 17 of my men tonight. 17. Did you think there wouldn't be consequences? I'll give you anything. The docks, the routes, the entire Western territory. I don't want your territory anymore, Tak. I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything. His finger tightens on the trigger. Say goodbye to your... Wait. Tak holsters his gun, raises both hands. Take me instead. The man pauses. What? You want me to suffer? Killing him makes me angry, but keeping him alive while you kill me? Tak takes a step forward, hands still raised. That's a wound that never heals. He grows up knowing his father died for him. Linda spends the rest of her life haunted by it. You get your revenge, and you don't have the blood of a child on your hands. Tak, no. Linda's voice comes from behind him. She's followed him in despite his orders, and her face is white with horror. The Viper boss considers, gun still pressed to Kai's head. You'd die for him? A son you've known for all of 6 hours? He's mine. Tak takes another step. That's all that matters. Something shifts in the man's expression. He pulls the gun away from Kai and points it at Tak instead. Get on your knees. Tak does. The concrete is cold and gritty beneath him. He looks at Kai, tries to smile despite the fear coursing through his veins. It's okay, buddy. You're going to be okay. The Viper boss aims. Tak closes his eyes. The shot rings out. But it's not the Viper's gun. Linda stands behind a shipping container 15 feet away, the fallen guard's weapon shaking in her hands, and there's a perfect red hole in the Viper boss's chest. He looks down at it, surprised, then collapses. Kai screams. Tak is moving before the body hits the ground, sweeping his son into his arms and turning away from the blood. I've got you. You're safe now. Kai buries his face in Tak's neck and sobs. The ambulance arrives 12 minutes later, called by Min-jae, the moment Tak emerged from the shipyard with Kai in his arms and Linda stumbling behind him, still holding the gun like she doesn't know how to let it go. The paramedics try to take Kai from him to check for injuries, but the boy has his small fists locked in Tak's blood-soaked shirt and won't let go. So they work around him, cleaning the knife wound across Tak's ribs while Kai sits in his lap, hiccuping through the tail end of his tears. Mama, Kai whimpers, reaching for Linda. She climbs into the ambulance and wraps around both of them, and for a moment they just sit there, a broken, bloodied mess of a family that shouldn't work but somehow does. You need stitches, the paramedic says, gesturing to Tak's side. Later, Tak's arm tightens around Kai, who's already falling asleep against his chest, exhausted from fear and crying. The adrenaline is starting to fade, leaving behind the sharp ache of his wound and something else, something that feels dangerously close to hope. Linda's hand finds his, threading their fingers together. Her knuckles are bruised from where she gripped the gun, and there's blood on her jeans that isn't hers. She looks like she's been through a war. She has. I killed him, she says quietly, staring at nothing. I killed that man. You saved us. Tak turns to look at her, and his eyes are soft in a way she's never seen. You saved our son. Our son. The words settle between them like a promise. What happens now? Linda asks. The Vipers won't just. The Vipers are finished. Min-jae is cleaning up the rest as we speak. Tak shifts Kai slightly, mindful of his sleeping weight. But you're right. This won't be the last time someone tries to use him to get to me. Not while I'm still. He stops jaw working. Not while I'm still in this life. Linda looks at him, afraid to hope. What are you saying? I'm saying no more hiding. Tak takes her hand, brings it to his lips. I have a house, a real one, outside the city. High walls. Security that would make a president jealous. I bought it 2 years ago thinking I'd retire there someday, but someday keeps getting further away. Tak, come home with me, both of you. His voice is rough with something that sounds like desperation. Let me keep you safe. Let me be. He looks down at Kai's sleeping face. Let me be his father. Really be his father. Not just the man who showed up when things went wrong. Linda's eyes fill with tears. What about the syndicate? Your empire? Min-jae can run it. I'll advise, but from a distance. Tak's thumb brushes across her knuckles. I meant what I said in that container. He's mine. You're mine. And I'm done pretending that power matters more than that. Linda leans forward and kisses him, soft and careful around their sleeping child. Take us home, she whispers. And for the first time in 3 years, Tak smiles like he means it. Want more stories of revenge, redemption, and dangerous men who'd burn the world for family? Subscribe and follow for more.